Yo! What is going on, everyone, man? It is your boy, Nate, man, and welcome back to another episode of Pony Power Garage. So, in this episode, man, we wanted to so it is getting warmer out. I think it's like 47 degrees today. So, it's a little warmer. We're able to get outside and be bundled up and be comfortable and not be super cold. We pulled the V6 in. When we started it, we heard a little bit of a whistle, so we want to figure out what that is. Um, and then we wanted to kind of run over our tool setup for the future builds and our starter, setup essentially for this journey, and then so you guys can, maybe in the future we look back and we're like, we got a whole setup, and we look back to this video and we're like, hey, we only started with a little socket set and a toolbox, and that's where we started. But so we're gonna run through our little tool setup that we have, and then the gold of everything, we are going to be running through everything that we are going to be putting in the heads as well as the block setup. So we're going to run through, basically run through everything on the heads, and kind of run through everything that we're going to be doing, all the modifications and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead. And the first thing we're going to start with is we're going to start with the tools. I think the tools is the most exciting part. So starting with the first thing on the list is our beautiful Master Force socket set. So we had gotten this. We have not used it yet. We bought it for, when it gets warmer and all of that, and we're going to be coming out here and working on this. We bought it for that reason. So this will be the setup. We were using my dad's, which is a mix of things. So we wanted to get something professional, something that, is very organized. And I love this socket set. All right, so we're running through the socket set. I mean, and this thing, when I opened it for the first time, I was like, holy shit. I mean, it is extremely shiny. Obviously, we have not used it yet, so that it will not be shiny forever. But it's got multiple wrenches. It's got the socket set. It's got Allen wrenches. I mean, it's got pretty much everything that you can need starting out. Obviously there's the specialty tools, the pulley pullers, all of that. But this is just something to get us started. And then we can obviously go to our local auto parts store and basically get any of these specialty tools that we need. So then this is just going to be all of our basic stuff. So nothing too fancy. Like I said, I mean, it's just, you got every wrench you can think of, you know what I'm saying, that you could possibly need. Allen wrenches, different sizes, and then your open head sockets, your middle head sockets. I mean, you got different bits. You got this screwdriver here with a standard 1/4 inch head, and this is really good for getting like your hose clamps off if that's the hose clamp set that you have, or even if you do have the normal sets, the normal hose clamps. Well, I guess you actually need pliers for that, which we don't have. So that's another thing that we can put on the list to get, but really handy tool. I hate the hoses where you got to use the pliers. So, I honestly, if I take them off, I will completely take them off. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll like buy new hose clamps, the ones that you use simply just boom, 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 and they're loose. Not where you have to freaking struggle with them and all of that. The ratchet, I will say this, this set was only, I think it was like $120, something like that. I can't really remember. Don't quote me on that. It could be cheaper, but I can't really remember how much I paid for it. But it is a low end set. I mean, this is a starter set, and for it being a starter set, and I mean, for the price that you pay for it, I mean, you're getting the bang for your buck. You're getting a nice set, for a good price. And again, you got your ratchet, you got your long extension, as well as your low extension. These are a must-have, to have both of these, to have them on deck. You want, there's going to be places and times where you're going to want a long head or a long extension, and then there's going to be times and places that you're going to need a small end, and then there's going to be times where you can't use any of these, and you got to use just the wrench or the ratchet. So those are all things that you must have, and again, a very good tool for a starter kit. Again, we've got all of our bits here, starting from, we've got 7/15, and it goes all the way up to 11. And then our wrenches go from 3/4 all the way up to an 18. So, and then we have over there, we've got huge, huge wrenches if we need them. And what I like about these is that a lot of the times they are flat. They're like flat here, so it just looks, these have a little bit of an angle to them, which is very good for getting into places. They have ones that are literally like a 90-degree angle. Those are very handy to have as well. But either way, everything that you can need socket wise for the most part. And then, yeah, wrenches, everything like that. Like I said, very, very clean set. They won't be clean forever. Eventually, we'll be tearing them up and all of that. So, yeah, and again, just if you guys wondered, this is a Master Force, and this is at Menards. You guys can go get it. And yeah, very, very clean socket set. All right, now that we finished with the Master Force set, we're going to move on to the toolbox that we had gotten. This we had gotten for Christmas, the toolbox. And what we were using to store all of our tools in was my old ICS backpack or construction backpack, and then my DeWalt tool bag. So, and then there was scattered on the table and all of that. That was what we were using. So my parents had got me this for Christmas, and very, very handy tool. One thing that I really needed was this piece right here, which is it opens like this, or you can actually take it out. So the brand is a Keter or Keter, however you want to pronounce that. A Keter, maybe. Maybe I'm saying it right now. Keter. So that's the brand of the box. And so one thing that I struggled with was bits. I'd put bits in different pockets, like it was mixed, and it was just chaotic. Like that was I hated it, especially doing construction. Like having like your bits everywhere is just chaotic. But when you have a good section, like good spaces, you got your spacers, you can put your hex heads, your 1/4 inches, you got your Phillips, your flatheads, and you can you can organize it. And to have that to my at my hands, at my ability, I got my different impact extensions, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and then I got more of our just little bits. I've got different size open ends, 1/4 inch, 5/16. I mean, I got a bunch of them. I only got a couple Phillips. I only have a couple Phillips that I had used from work. I'm sure I have more somewhere. And then I got like a bunch of hex heads. But yeah, so that is a huge upgrade. And I can honestly just have this. I can take this little with me if I need it. Or I can, put it back into the box, like this. Boom. And now it's back to the box where I can take it where I need to, whatever. So, and it's got a nice little grippy handle. So that's a plus too. Only that sucks is having to carry it. But I mean, you can honestly modify it to where you get straps. You can maybe carry it like a strap. I don't know. But still a very handy tool. It feels expensive. It feels, a lot of those plastic toolboxes, they feel cheap, and all of that. This feels very strong, put together. And so it's got straps up here. You can put something on here to kind of put right here if you wanted to. I haven't really decided or figured out what those are necessarily for. That's just kind of what I thought it would be. It's got a nice little toolbox or little handle thing. You can take this with you again, put it on here. You can put tools, whatever, however you want to do it. It's a good mechanic box. So this, I don't have anything on it yet, but we will eventually. We got our Bosch bit kit for hammer drill. We got our hole punch set as well as our flat. We got different drill bits, all of that. We've got our Milwaukee drill. So I've used DeWalt and I've used Milwaukee. I have not used anything else other than that. I haven't used a Bosch or I can't even think of any other brands necessarily at the top of my head right now. But Milwaukee, with this impact, it does great justice. It does what it needs to do. This is a low end impact too. So I don't can imagine what their actual, big impacts, like what that can do. This is my baby. This does a lot of work. And I just love it. So definitely there. And then I have a normal 18 amp impact drill or battery. and it's actually dead right now. I actually need to get a battery pack or a battery set. Again, another very handy tool. It is another Milwaukee. It is a hole punch. So, or not a hole punch, but it's a punch. It's a wire punch. So this is something that I used for ICS. It's got a light on it even, so when you're working in apartments and all that, you know, you can see what you're doing. The ones that have lights off and whatnot. But it also works for cars as well. So like when you're using different wire bits or extensions, whatever, like whatever you're putting or plugging into, like the head of the wire, you know, so like I would use like Cat 6, Cat 5, whatever, and you put the wires, you know, you read the diagram, you put the wires where they need to go, and then you punch it down. So it'll sound like that. And then when that goes off, that wire is now synced and set into that groove. So you go on to the next wire, and that's how you wire up something. So different heads that you use for a car, and you're wiring something, you could use this bit here and or this, you know, this tool, and punch it down, and you know, that's how you could wire something. It's got different size bits as well. You know, for something's like down in something and you need more of like an extension, you know, you can use your extension. It's got a high and a low section or setting, which is, you know, very useful. But I have not yet used this for a car, but I use this all the time when I was working at ICS doing internet, and very handy tool. So now we're gonna move on to your basic tools. Or actually, we can actually run through this real quick because this is also another very handy tool. This is a crimper, so this is going to be another thing. This is for your Cat 6. I wouldn't necessarily use this to crimp down any other heads because it only fits Cat 6, Cat 5. But it's very good. So it's got a wire stripping mechanism in the thing. So if I needed to on a car, I can put the wire in here, you know, strip it, get it down, and then use that tool to crimp it down or do whatever, or not crimp it, but punch it down and make sure that the wiring and the whole setup is functioning. Another handy tool. I have not used this yet, but I'm sure I will eventually. And it's got little settings here you can read the diagram and all of that. Stud finder. You would never use this on a car, but it is, you know, it's just a tool that I put in the box. Never know, you know, because I use this stuff for, you know, when I go do side work for my uncle. You know, I'll take this as well as my pouch, my drills. I got my hammer, my square, tape measure, all that. So speaking of, you know, you got your hammer. I don't use this hammer on stuff like this because it's metal. You create spark, all that. Big no-no. But again, this is my construction box as well. So I use this in construction, and you know, here and there. I mean, it's got a rubber, you know, butt, so I could use it to like hit things, whatever, with that. I need to get like one of those actual mechanical hammers. But and then a square. Squares are good to have just to square things off, all that good stuff. Drywall saw. Never gonna use that, but you can use it for other things. I got a bunch of our wrenches or whatever. I forget what the fuck these are called. I'm tweaking right now, but I got a bunch of these. I got scissors. You know, those are good to have. Bunch of screwdrivers. And then yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Tape measure. Tape measure is Performax. Again, that's another Menards tape measure there. I got a bunch of brand new metal blades. These are the extra thick because one of the things that I was dealing with was when I was doing, and I did it in my video, but one of the things that I was dealing with my exhaust on my V6 was, or on the V8, was that I couldn't get the exhaust cut. Like the blades that I was using weren't, I mean, they were metal blades, but they weren't like, I mean, they were dull so quick. I mean, exhaust metal is extremely fucking thick. So it's something that, you know, I was struggling. I was literally sitting there for like 30 minutes and I wasn't even getting halfway through the pipe. I went to O'Reilly's and I bought actual metal blades, like real thick metal blades. Came back here, dude, and it's like butter. I mean, I literally just sawed right through it. And that took me like literally 5 minutes versus I was sitting there struggling, sweating. It was hot out here. I was sweating, like really trying to get this because I was so frustrated that I couldn't get the heads off. So I just said, I'm getting a whole new exhaust system anyways. I'm just going to cut it. And that was where all that came from. But yeah, so that's really the kind of the starter tools. Majority of the stuff I get at Menards. You know, Menards. I mean, I'm pretty sure everything in here is from Menards. So, and again, they're very cheap or cheap enough. It's something that you guys can use for a good starter setup. You know, they're just good to have. You know, and so those are going to be the tools that we're going to be using. Something I forgot to mention and put it in my toolbox, but a Milwaukee light. This thing is LED. It's extremely bright. So you could have a battery in here, and you could, you know, have maybe a friend hold it, whatever. You can build a mount for it. I haven't really found anything that you can really necessarily use. And this is really just a flashlight, but it is extremely bright. So you can put it, you know, mount it somewhere in your car, and you could, I mean, that engine bay will be gleaming. I mean, it's extremely bright. So shout out to Milwaukee for that as well. So now we want to basically run through everything that we are going to be doing on the V8. So let's go ahead and run over that. All right, so we want to run through basically, so we're going to start with the block. Since the block is in here, we've got the 2 cylinder heads right there, which we'll bring those over here, kind of, you know, run through everything once we, so we're going to start at the block and go up basically on here. So we don't necessarily have brands decided yet. I know brands play a big factor in a lot of this on what you can use that's going to be compatible with each other, as well as what's going to create the most boost or power or air, like whatever. Like you have to, when you're doing builds like this, you want to be strategic. You want to do your research and figure out what parts are compatible and work good with other parts, because this part may not work good with this part. You know what I'm saying? So this is just a rough draft. But so we looked at the main prices of what everything is, and it came out to be about a $10,000 build from here up with all modifications. So about a $10,000 build. So starting with the block, we're going to do pistons, which are those for a good set of pistons are going to be about 170 each. So, you know, you guys kind of do the math there. And so pistons, that is where you're going to get a lot of your power. You know, I feel like as well as your valve. I mean, really, so how you get power is going to be your air, combustion, spark, all that, airflow. So those are all things that you need to keep into consideration when you guys are going through this build. What can build the most pressure? What can, you know, create the most boost or power? What is going to have the most airflow? And it can be as little as you doing carving, like you doing a little bit of carving on your block yourself. You know, again, do your research before you do that though, because you can really damage your block. But you know, you just do your shit and you can manipulate a lot of things, like your valves, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so going back down, so we got piston rings. So our piston rings for a whole set of everything is going to be about $240. And then our connecting rods, we don't have a price on that. Because when we looked up connecting rod, I don't know if they're actually called connecting rods, but it wasn't popping up what we wanted, so I just didn't necessarily get a price on that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. We're not going to change the crankshaft, nothing like that, because we've done research in the stock in the 4.6, the stock camshaft or crankshaft can withstand anywhere between 600 to 800 horse. That's about the ballpark on where we want to have this engine when we actually get it going, is around that ballpark, 600 to 800 horse. Right now it's at like 300 something, I think, stock. Don't quote me on that either, but yeah, so we want to get it up to about that ballpark, and this crankshaft can do it, and it'll save us some money. So we're not going to do any crankshaft work, nothing like that. We're just going to do piston rings, and then the connecting rod, all of that. That's just what we're going to do with the block. Everything else is very, very clean, very good. You guys have seen the videos about it and all that. So that'll really do us good there. So next, we're going to go ahead and take over. I'm only going to bring one over here and kind of run through everything that we're going to be putting into the block head. So that's going to be the cylinder heads. That's going to be your crankshaft or your camshafts, your valve springs, your valves, all that. All right. All right. So here's our nice cylinder head. So this is something that we will be doing or spending the most money on, is going to be from this point forward. So this is where we're going to be doing a lot of different research, all that good stuff. So this is our camshaft. And so we're going to be getting 2 new camshafts for both of these heads. So basically think of everything times 2. So we have 2 cylinder heads. So we're replacing the camshaft, or let me get my paper over here. So first up, 2 camshafts. So for 2 camshafts, for a good camshaft is going to be, for 2 of them, $840. And so I actually have a brand written down here. So it's called the CompCam Extreme Energy Modulator 2-valve camshaft. It says 2 of those is $840. And then we need 8 valves. So we're going to be replacing the valves. So the valves are down here. So these are valves. I don't know if you guys can see these or not. You can tell that they're pretty worn. I mean, this one's sticking up. And then our spark. So this is going to be, so to put it into consideration, or into perspective. So here's your spark plug. So this is what creates spark. You've got your air and fuel, I believe. So spark, air, and fuel create and combustion with the piston coming and hitting it. So with all that happening here, the piston hitting it here creates an explosion, boom, which then goes out your exhaust manifold and then out your exhaust. That's pretty much what happens here. So these are very important. So this is what's going to basically change the amount of air or fuel or whatever that's going to be coming out of here. That's going to basically create the most amount of combustion. So with your spark, these are, you get a more high-tech spark plug that's going to create a bigger spark, whatever. We're replacing those as well. And then 2, 4, 6, and then 8 valves. And we're going to be getting the, so here I have written down, we're getting the AFR replacement stainless steel valves. And I have the barcode here that I could actually type that number in and it'll pop it up. So if I find any of these parts, I'll put them, like a picture of them, just so you guys can see them, if I haven't already. So these are valves again, and so we're replacing all of these. So these are what I was talking about with these. If you do your research and you get your titanium, the type of metal, all of that. I mean, you could shade these down to an angle, and I don't know the exact angle on everything or on these valves, or where to do it. I'd have to do my research as well, but I'm just telling you like things that I've seen on the internet and all of that to basically create more power. And that was one of the things they would basically carve this at like an angle, which then would open up that section, which would then have more fuel, more air, and then with the piston coming in, you're having more combustion because you have more space. And then obviously with all these happening, that's how it works. So those are something that we're going to be replacing. Then the rocker arms, which the rocker arms are up here. So the rocker arms are these basic pins right here that work with your camshaft. So while your camshaft is spinning, it's basically pushing, it's like doing this basically on your rocker arms. And you got 2, 4, so you got 8 of them. Obviously, it's V8. And then, yeah, so that's basically going with the hydraulic lifters, which are going to be these things down here, which those just have like with air or whatever. So it's going to like just basically be bouncing with the and then it's going to be doing this, like I said, and which the other side is it's going against your valve spring, which then go down to your valves. So with it doing this, your valves are going in and out, So that's how all that kind of works together. So we're getting new rocker arms. These do play a part because that can create the amount of, whatever. And as well as, and this is what I was talking about earlier about getting parts that are compatible, because I couldn't use these for a different camshaft. I'd have to get this camshaft could have multiple different like little loops here, or grooves, and so I'd have to have like a thicker rocker arm to be able to hold with both of those, those little grooves here, things like that. So basically, in here, we're replacing the rocker arms, the hydraulic pins, the valves, the valve springs, the camshaft. We're getting new long tube headers, but that's, whatever. So we're going to be cleaning this out very good. You can see here it's very, very rusty and dirty. So we're going to be cleaning all that out. We're keeping the same heads. We're not going to replace different heads, just because the research that I've been told is that these can withstand up to 1,000 horsepower. That's what I've heard. And so that's way more than we're going to be going with this build. So these cylinder heads, I feel, will work very good. But so yeah, so we're doing all of these. So if I'm running down, so the camshafts were 840 for 2. The valves for 8 of them was 230. Rocker arms was 300. Hydraulic valve lifters, we have not figured out a price for those. And then we're going to be talking about our add-ons. So now that we've got the block taken care of, now we've got our heads taken care of. So now we need to kind of go with our, intake manifold, our exhaust manifolds, our throttle body, all that good stuff. So those are all things that we're going to be talking about here in a minute, about the add-ons. All right, so talking about the add-ons. So these are the fun things. This is what's going to basically create more air, more fuel, which is going to basically create more power. So, boom, heads, block, all that's taken care of. Now we need to focus on cold air intake. So a nice, good cold air intake that's going to create a lot of air that's going to be going into our engines. We had about $500. And that's for a good cold air intake. And the one we were thinking about getting was the KPN cold air intake, which is $500. Going down to the intake manifold. So we got the RPM intake manifold, which came out to be about $500. And the intake manifold is basically going to create the fuel to air to mixture. So that's where all that's basically going from or to is going to be to the intake manifold. So, you can have bigger holes in the intake manifold. So if I show you guys, hold on. So this is my intake manifold on the V6. This is a stock intake manifold. This is where, your fuel, your air, everything's coming through is going to be through this. So the more, thicker these rods are, the more air, the fuel that's going to be coming through here. So your throttle body is going to be sitting here. So you got air coming in this way. You got your, from your exhaust and all that going into here with your cold air intake. So all that's going to be going through here. So that's why a lot of these, so we actually blew it. So my stock one, so I replaced this already. This is new. And so these stock ones come with a plastic reservoir or a plastic like hose tip that can. These are this is the fuel rail. So we are going to be using this. We're deleting. This is the AC that goes to your radiator. This is a part of that. This is my wiring harness, which we're reusing the same wiring harness. But then these are your fuel rails. So you can see here the diameter here. It's probably about like 2 to 3 centimeters. And so then the fuel rails the fuel injectors that we get have to be that size and have to work, But these are really good. The owner that I had before me, I looked these up, and these are aftermarket high performance fuel rail. So that's why it already has a kind of a thick, fuel rail, diameter. But so we're gonna remain to keep those the same. So yeah, so we're keeping the fuel rail probably the same. We might end up changing it. We don't know yet. But as of right now, we're keeping the fuel rail the same, which then come within the fuel injectors. So the classic highs is the one that we've seen. And those with all 8 of the fuel injectors, those are expensive. Those are $700 for all of them. And then a turbo, we kind of want to build everything up and then decide what turbo we're going to go with. That's going to kind of, we want to put everything together and dyno it to figure out where we're sitting at that point. Before we put any superchargers, turbos, anything like that, we want it to be at its natural state before we do any add-ons like that. So that's going to be, we'll be waiting. Coils, so that's going to be buy your fuel injectors. I don't necessarily know exactly the job of the coils. So if you guys know, comment down below. But we want to go high performance. So those for all 8 of them are going to be $200. And then going on to other add-ons, and I'm just going to run through these. I'm just going to, because you guys, I'm sure these are basic things. You guys are going to know what all these do. But there's going to be more high performance that are just going to basically create more power or help us and all that. So these are all things that we took off and threw away that we're going to be replacing as well. Coolant housing, alternator, we're getting long tube headers or exhaust manifolds. We're getting a new exhaust system, O2 sensors, spark plugs, clutch, wiring harness, oil pan, and stick housing, pulleys, radiator fan, as well as a new battery. So coolant housing we have set to about $200. Alternator we have set to about $300. Long tube exhaust manifolds we got $900. Exhaust system $1,000. O2 sensors $100 for all of them. Spark plugs $200 for all of them. Clutch $500. Wiring harness we haven't necessarily, because again we might be using the same wiring harness. We have not decided yet. We don't have a price set for that. Oil pan and stick housing together $500. Pulleys we don't have a price on that yet. Radiator $600, radiator fans $600, and battery $500. And so the things that we are going to be replacing: coolant housing, water pump, power steering, alternator, exhaust manifold. Those are all things that we basically took off and scrapped. So yeah, so that's kind of, and that is going to equal out to a $10,000 build. And so we have everything written down. We have an idea. We have the tools. We are getting an engine stand. So everything is going to be in motion, just very slowly. So I hope you guys can bear with me. But, and again, my parents are on a cruise right now. When they get back, we're in full motion on this race shit. So they wanted to go on the cruise and kind of, do their little splurge, which they deserve it. But then when they get back, we're full on the gas on this racing shit and getting this built. So hope you guys are excited for the future, man. I'm super excited, especially to get this bad girl on the road, hopefully this summer. Let's keep our fingers crossed and do the little bit of work that we're going to be doing to this bad girl right here, which we're going to end up wrapping the hood, because over the winter, I had to leave this at my brother's house, and they had to move it one day, and they used a shovel to scrape all the ice and fucking snow off of my hood and scratched my car pretty bad. So stuff like this can probably be filled or buffed out. The hood is pretty scratched, so we're gonna have to probably wrap it either in the same color or go carbon fiber or something like that. But yeah, man, I hope you guys went on to enjoy the video. If you guys did, don't forget to drop a like. Also, comment down below anything that you guys want to see in the near future. I hope you guys are super excited for the future of this channel as much as I am. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.